Do not think dishonestly. The way is in training. Become acquainted with every art. Know the way of all professions. Distinguish between gain and loss in worldly matters. Develop intuitive judgment and understanding for everything. Perceive those things which cannot be seen. Pay attention, even to trifles. Do nothing which is of no use. Friends, this is the Formless Podcast, episode number 75, with me, Dustin, and my beautiful bride, Brighten. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Other than being beautiful?
Thank you. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I am okay. We had a very long week. Tyler's out hunting, and it's just been a whirlwind of craziness in our home.
Yes.
With busy. No days off.
So busy.
No days off.
No days off.
Ever.
None.
Ever.
Never.
Always working.
Yep, that's okay. Keeps us out of trouble.
There is
Maybe.
no trouble. There's no trouble.
No trouble.
No trouble to be had. We're going to continue on with the Zen and martial arts. This isn't one that you've read.
I have not read this. I'm a little nervous to be talking about it.
We're just going to read some excerpts out of this and talk about them. And this will be kind of interesting because you haven't read this before.
I have not.
So you'll get a chance to hear it for the first time and kind of react to it.
Yeah.
Also, we are doing a contest on this. If you make a purchase on our website, please make sure you tag us with a picture of you wearing your new merch, or you're drinking out of your coffee mug, or sleeping on your pillow. Make sure you tag us at the Formless Pod on Instagram, or go to the Facebook group, the Formless Pod, or just send us an email saying, hey, cool stuff, thanks, whatever. But make sure you do that so we can make sure to get you an entry into our contest so you can win a copy of Zen and the Martial Arts. And then all the rules and all that gobbledygook is on our website. So, yeah, should we get started?
Yeah, let's get started.
Awesome. Okay. So in this chapter, it's titled Conquer Haste. Joe Himes is sitting down having tea with one of his teachers. The teacher's been expecting this letter to come for a while.
So first of all,
what's up?
Because I've never read this. Who is Joe?
Joe Himes is the guy who wrote this book.
Gotcha.
And he trained with a bunch of different martial artists. He was a newspaper writer. You listened to the last couple of episodes.
I listened to the episode 2 the first episode you guys did. And then last night I was trying to listen to the second one, but I was making dinner, and so I couldn't fully hear it. So I will have questions. I apologize.
No,
but
that's
maybe
okay.
you guys have questions too.
Ask all sorts of questions.
Perfect. So he trains in a lot of different styles.
He trained in a whole bunch of different styles.
He trained,
and stuff.
okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. So, knowing that the teacher had been eagerly anticipating the letter, I paused our conversation, expecting him to tear open the envelope and hastily scan the contents. Instead, he put the letter aside, turned to me, and continued our conversation. The following day, I remarked on his self-control, saying that I would have read that letter at once. The teacher says, I did what I would have done had I been alone, he said. I put the letter aside until I had conquered haste. Then, when I set my hand to it, I opened it as though it were something precious. Puzzled over this for a moment, knowing he meant it to be a lesson for me. Finally, I said I didn't understand what such patience led to. It leads to this, he said. Those who are patient in trivial things in life and control themselves will one day have the same mastery in great and important things.
So he got a letter. His teacher got a letter.
Yeah. They were having tea. They were sitting down having tea, and he got this letter that he was waiting for.
Okay, he's been waiting for this letter.
Yeah.
Okay.
And instead of opening it right away, he just sets it down, and then he continues having tea in his conversation with Joe.
That's cool.
And that's that chapter.
That's the whole chapter.
That was the whole, well, not the whole chapter. I didn't read one of the paragraphs.
That was what you wanted to.
But that was what I wanted to share. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good.
So the next chapter is Know Your Limits. This is he's talking about Bruce Lee again. They're having lunch, and he's complaining, and this is something I think is pretty common. He's complaining that he's 45 and he's too old and too stiff, and he can't do all the things he used to do, and maybe he should just quit. Does that sound familiar?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Painfully.
Not that you're old.
This is Bruce Lee.
No, this is still Joe Hyams.
Okay, sorry.
He's with
I was like, I didn't think Bruce Lee lived to be that old.
He's with Bruce Lee.
Oh, okay.
You
wow,
follow?
So he trained under Bruce Lee?
Yeah, he trained with Bruce Lee. So he's basically whining and moping and complaining.
I like how you look at me.
I didn't look at you. I looked at the camera.
I never do any of that.
Let the record show I looked at the camera. You will never learn anything new unless you are ready to accept yourself with your limitations. You must accept the fact that you are capable in some directions and limited in others, and you must develop your capabilities. Then Joe whines in. But 10 years ago, I could kick over my head, I said. Now I need a half hour to limber up before I can do it. Bruce set his chopsticks down alongside his plate and clasped his hands lightly on his lap and smiled at me. That was 10 years ago. So you are older today and your body has changed. Everyone has physical limitations to overcome. Joe whines in again. That's all very well for you to say, I replied. If you were a man born with natural ability as a martial artist, if a man was born with natural ability as a martial artist, it is you. And then Bruce goes on to tell him that he has some of his own limitations, and like one of his legs is shorter than the other, and that he's nearsighted, and that he's human.
That was Bruce Lee.
That was Bruce Lee talking, yeah. And then this quote I really like. Instead of trying to do everything well, do those things perfectly of which you are capable. Although most expert martial artists have spent years mastering hundreds of techniques and movements, in a bout, a champion may actually only use 4 or 5 techniques over and over again. These are the techniques which he has perfected and which he knows he can depend on. I protested. He's a whiner. Joe's a little, and at least that's my assumption.
Okay.
But the fact still remains that my real competition is the advancing years. Stop comparing yourself at 45 to the person you were at 20 or 30. That past is an illusion. You must learn to live in the present and accept yourself for who you are now. What you lack in flexibility and agility, you must make up with knowledge and constant practice. Pretty interesting stuff.
Okay, interesting. Why do you say he's a whiner?
Because he's always got this like retort. He's always got this like, but you.
Well, he's comparing.
Yeah. Thief is the comparison of joy. I've said that a lot lately. For my own being. Let's see. Then one day in late 1965, he came by my house to say goodbye before leaving for Hong Kong, where he said he intended to become the biggest star in films. You remember our talk about limitations? He asked. Well, I'm limited by my size and difficulty in English, and the fact that I'm Chinese, and there has never been a big Chinese star in American films. But I have spent the last 3 years studying movies, and I think the time is ripe for a good martial arts film, and I am the best qualified to star in it. My capabilities exceed my limitations.
That's good.
Yeah. Even the masters have masters. The beginning student is in most martial arts disciplines, wears a white belt. That, according to tradition, signifies innocence. With the passage of time, the belt becomes soiled from handling and use to the second stage of learning, is signified by the brown belt. As more time passes, the belt becomes darker until it is black. the black belt stage. With even more use, the black belt becomes frayed, almost white, signifying that the wearer is returning to innocence, a Zen characteristic of human perfection. So, story time.
Okay.
When I was a kid training with Sensei Blue, he told this story, and I'm going to butcher it because this was like 30 plus years ago. He told this story. Somebody had asked him what the belts mean. Like what does it mean to have like a blue belt or a red belt or whatever? And he told this story, and I don't know where he got this story from, but it's one I've heard similar versions of in the past. And basically, like, just like he says here in the book, your white belt is supposed to be new and clean, and it's void of knowledge. And then as you train and you get bruised and dirty and sweaty and stuff, your belt stains and becomes yellow or blue. And you train and you might bleed on the belt and it becomes red. And then it gets that red stains and gets darker as it ages and becomes brown and then eventually black. And then as you wear the black belt, it fades. The color fades out of it and becomes white. And it's supposed to signify, I'm butchering the story, obviously, and I'm making it shorter than it is. It's supposed to signify like the whole process of learning.
Yeah.
Like how when you learn something new, you're new to it and you don't know it. And then as you go through those different stages of learning, you become acquainted with it, but you don't know it. And then it becomes second nature, and then it becomes like almost no thought process at all. It just happens. It's automatic. And then you get to a stage where once it's automatic, you don't know that you can learn anymore. You don't think you can learn anymore. And then you see it in a new light, and you've started that process over again. Like, have you ever seen a movie and you rewatch the movie and you catch something you missed the first time?
Yeah.
It's like that kind of an idea. Or like...
Oh, okay. So like as it transitions from black back into white, like maybe this time around you learn something you missed new. The first time.
Yeah,
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah. My own learning experiences, this is Joe Hyams talking, my own learning experiences in the martial arts has always been like a staircase with countless landings. With each step upward, the goal, spiritual and physical unification of mind and body, seems nearer. But then there are always landings or plateaus, at which learning seems to stop and the staircase winds infinitely. I can't say that word. Infinitely upward. Boy, that was bad. Infinitely
that was
upward.
A mouthful.
At such times, I've often felt frustrated and discouraged, much like I do right this minute. I have mentioned this experience to martial arts friends, and each admits that he too reaches such a plateau from time to time. The experience is common to us all, and I think that's something that we forget as people. Like, life is not just one flat plane. There's all sorts of peaks and valleys. Yep. And occasionally you get to a plateau where it's just stalled. Mm-hmm. And it stalls and stalls and stalls. And you have to figure out the way past that.
Yes.
He talks about a conversation with a friend of his that would get discouraged when he either faced somebody or sparred with somebody that was better than him, or he hit a plateau. He felt like he was like stalling out. So he said, when that happened, I used to go into the dojo and watch the white belts, all the beginner students. And I saw that compared to them, I was good. But then I'd go and watch the black belts and become inspired all over again, seeing how much better it was possible to become. When I finally became a black belt, I realized that I really knew nothing compared to my own Sifu, and I was discouraged until he told me how great his teacher was. Despite my many years of martial arts study, I recognize how little I really know compared to true masters of the arts. Only by constantly exposing myself to someone better than I have been able to improve. It is inspiring to know that even the masters have masters and that we are all learners. I think some of the best ways to learn are to practice with people that are better than you, but also to practice with people that are less experienced than you.
That is very true.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. That is really true. I think, me personally, I know that I've learned a lot from people that are better, more experienced than I am. It can be really intimidating to work with them, but you learn so much. And then, but also, like, recently, I've been working a little bit more with other people, and it makes you realize...
other people better,
like students
worse,
that maybe are just starting out, less experienced. And to, like, try to teach them something makes you sort of... I think I finally understand what you and Sensei Poke-Up or Tyler are talking about. Like, you have to rethink it, and you're like... oh, wait, do I really know how to do this? Or like, you start to question yourself and you're like, oh, wait, hold on. I do know this, but I have to almost like close my eyes and go through it and then be like, oh, it's like this. Teaching it is like, it's a really good way to learn.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a really, really good way to learn.
Absolutely. I think that's where I really felt like I was starting to learn stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm
when you
just
teach stuff.
Kind of getting there.
Yeah. But not only that, like, because you're trying different approaches, because everybody learns a little bit differently.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so... some people need to see it. Some people need to hear it. Some people need to read it. But you find this way of like, okay, I'm trying to communicate with this person. How do I best communicate this? So you try like all these different attempts, like, slightly different than the last time, just to try and make sure that they understand that information that you're trying to give them.
Yeah. Yeah. And some people really know how they learn best. Mm-hmm. And I just really think that's so cool. Like, I was helping somebody a couple weeks back in our niece and learning a kata. And immediately he was like, okay, I'm going to write this down. Like, I would prefer to just watch you go through it and write my own notes. And I was like, whoa, that's so cool to be like, yeah, like, I know this is how I learn. So if we could just do it this way, like,
wow. I
don't realize how I learn things best. Like, it takes a trial and error for me to figure that out. But when you can just come to it and be like, this is how I learn, can we do it this way? I think that's so cool. Like, how insightful that you already know what's going to work for you. Or at least you have an idea of what's going to work best for you.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
I was impressed. Yeah.
Very cool. This is one I really like. This is probably one of my favorite little stories in here. So he meets Ed Parker, and Ed Parker, if you don't know, is basically I guess he's the founder of Kempo Karate.
Of Kempo.
What we know of as of Kempo. I met with Kempo Karate master Ed Parker in 1952 in a Beverly Hills gym that he had rented space. A handsome 6-foot-tall Hawaiian with thick thatch of black hair. Parker reminded me of a huge tree with arms like powerful burrows and bare feet rooted firmly on the canvas. Despite his size, he was a whirlwind in motion. He was wearing an old, loose-fitting gi, two-piece cotton uniform worn by most martial artists. The gi, like his black belt, was white in places from fraying and repeated launderings. His face was serene and peaceful, as though he had just completed meditating. I remember one of my initial sessions at his dojo in Los Angeles where I was practicing sparring with a more skillful opponent. To make up for my lack of knowledge and experience, I tried deceptive trickery moves that were readily countered. I was outclassed, and Parker watched me get roundly trounced. When the match was over, I was dejected. Parker invited me into his office, a small, sparsely furnished room with only a scarred desk and battered chairs. "Why are you so upset?" he asked. "Because I couldn't score." Parker got up from his desk and with a piece of chalk drew a line on the floor about 5 feet long. "How can you make this line shorter?" he asked. I studied the line and gave him several answers, including cutting the line into many pieces. He shook his head and drew a second line, longer than the first. "Now, how does the first line look?" "Shorter," I said. Parker nodded. "It is always better to improve and strengthen your own line of knowledge than to try and cut your opponent's line. He accompanied me to the door and added, "Think about what I've just said." I did think about it and studied hard for the next several months, developing greater skills, increasing my knowledge and ability. The next time I went onto the mat with the same opponent, he too had improved, but I fared far better than I had the previous match because I had raised my level of knowledge as well as developing my own skills. Not long after, I realized I could apply the principle Parker had taught me to my tennis game. An avid weekend tennis player, I frequently found myself pitted against better players. And when things started to go badly for me on the court, I often resorted to trickery, slicing the ball, trying to hit it with a spin, attempting difficult drop shots. Inevitably, I lost and was frustrated. Instead of trying to better my game, I was trying to cut their line. I recognized that I had to play to my best ability rather than try and worsen my opponent's play. Keeping Parker's advice in mind, my game soon improved. It has been nearly 3 decades since then, and in the intervening years, Parker has taught his art to thousands of students. Even long after their training, they think of him as a good friend and as a wise and gentle Sifu who embodies the martial arts spirit and philosophy. I love that. The lesson about the line. Just like, don't worry about what they can do. Worry about what you're doing. Improve yourself. Don't worry about trying to cut the other person's experience or knowledge down.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny because like I see this in myself a lot, but I also see it in newer students. Once they kind of start, like, because we spar pretty frequently in class. And the first couple of times are always a little bit scary or a little bit rough. Their excuse is like, oh, they're better. They know more. They're better. They're faster. They're younger. They're stronger. There's like this list of things always. And I always come back and I always try to come back and say like, focus on what you know and focus on what you're doing. There's always things you can do to make it harder for them. Simple stuff by like just keeping your hands up, making yourself harder to hit through your guard, that kind of thing. But I don't know. I just like that lesson. That's a whole
really
thing,
good one.
That line, like just focus on what you're doing. Focus on your stuff and you're
improving yourself.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I really like that. That's really good.
And your outcomes can improve.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of goes back to that thing that you keep saying, which is comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
But like if you're just focusing on making yourself better, that's really good.
Mm-hmm. So that's all I had there. That book's we're like already about halfway through.
Wow, you guys are.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
that sounds like a really good book.
It is.
Yeah.
It's short and sweet and to the point. And,
yeah.
I really like that.
And so this guy, Joe, he's just talking about all the things that he learned from all of his different instructors?
Not all of the things he learned, but just lessons. So it's the whole idea is about being Zen.
Yeah.
That whole mindset of just, I'll let you read it. I'll have to let you read it. There's a parent in one of my classes that wants to borrow this.
Oh, very cool.
I promised it to him,
That's
but I will
okay.
let you read it.
Thank you.
I think there's a little bit of something in there for everyone.
Yeah.
Martial artists, non-martial artists. But that lesson is one that I keep coming back to a lot.
Which one?
The line.
The
line lesson. Lengthen your own line.
That's a good
Instead
lesson.
of worrying about shortening the other.
Yeah.
Others' lines.
Yeah, I like that.
What else is going on? Let's talk about some other stuff. How's school?
School's good. It's different because I'm not really doing psychology classes right now. I'm just trying to finish up general ed electives. And so it's really fun, but it's also pretty challenging because I'm used to writing my papers in APA, for example.
Excuse me. What is APA?
It's basically the way you format your paper.
Oh, the formatting of
APA format.
The school
and
papers.
So that's what I'm used to. So now it's like back to MLA format for my papers. And so just kind of like learning how to
And is that all
do that
dependent on the teacher? Like the teacher, one teacher wants it
not
in...
so much the teacher. I think probably just in my experience, MLA format is like the format that's usually used in college. But then I think once you go to psychology, they prefer APA formatting. So I would say all of my psychology teachers, that was what we wrote all of our papers in.
Oh, okay.
But just like, when you're just taking an English class like I am right now, they defer to the MLA format. So I'm just trying to learn. I taught myself, not taught myself, but I learned out of a book how to do APA formatting. And then I got used to writing all my papers that way. And now it's kind of like having to learn it all over again, but like in a different format. So... And it's just basically how you format your paper and cite your sources.
Oh, okay.
But
like the layout.
So that's been like the layout. Okay. So that's challenging. And I'm also taking a science class, and I'm taking a business class, and that's got some math in it. So in science and math, I would say I have to work a little harder in those classes. So I'm thinking, and I took a computer class, as you know. So yes. I feel like I'm kind of out of my comfort zone with a lot of my classes. So it's been a little bit more of a struggle to... But
that's where the growth is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I'm really kind of glad I did it this way, because like doing psychology feels like sort of like intuitive or like second nature for me. That's what I'm interested in. Yeah. So it doesn't feel like such a grind.
Whereas this is
more like I have to kind of like talk myself into it every day to do my homework, and like I have to work a little harder for it, and I have to like remind myself what the end goal is and why I'm doing it. And so it's just been a little bit more of a struggle. And I'm glad that I did the psychology classes first, because it kind of gave me some like confidence that I can do it, I guess. Yeah. Because I'm not as confident in like science or math or that kind of thing. So I have to like be a little more disciplined, and I have to work a little harder at it. So
you're a little more focused.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on.
How about you?
Just working, just working and working and working, and got overtime every day this week. And I think the shortest day I worked was 10 hours.
Yeah, you worked a lot this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I taught that day. So, yeah. So that was good times.
Yeah.
Staying busy, that's for sure. No time for trouble.
Exactly.
Yeah. Things are going well. Just doing the things.
Yeah.
Staying busy.
Yeah. We've both been really busy. It's been good though.
Yeah. Got a lot of little projects in the fire, trying to see which ones pan out and which ones to discard. But got a lot of little things like that going on, and on top of the podcast, and on top of work and family life and everything else, just trying to one foot in front of the other. Some days is a little easier than others, but I still try and wake up with a smile. So
that's good.
I'm good there. I do want to point out, I had commented on Instagram. I spend a little bit of time there in the mornings posting and trying to comment on different profiles and stuff. And somebody read my comment that I made on somebody else's post. And they went through the Formless Pod Instagram page. And I would say 90% of it is just my alarm clock in the morning at like 4 a.m. or 4:30 if it's on the weekends. And they're like, "Do you really wake up at 4 a.m.? What's the point? What's the point with that?" And I do have a witness. Yes, she's right here.
He really does.
She was not paid to say that.
It was not.
But anyway, he asked me why, and I put a brief answer in there. But the real reason why I do that actually is because I had always had a really difficult time falling asleep. I could never just lay down and go to bed. My brain just is always firing off random thoughts and what I'm going to do tomorrow, what can I do tonight, what's going on, or I just daydream or whatever. And I always struggled falling asleep. And as a consequence of that, I was always tired during the day. Mm-hmm. And I found myself being irritable and grumpy and just not really thrilled with things. So I had read a couple of different things about sleep and stuff, and I saw Jocko. Somebody was talking about Jocko before I knew who he was on another podcast, and they were talking about how he always posts his alarm clock at 4 o'clock in the morning or 4:30 in the morning or whatever. I think he actually wakes up at 4:30 in the morning.
Oh, do you get up before Jocko now?
I do get up before Jocko. Whoa. So I have that going for me. So basically the idea is don't go to bed if you're not tired. If you want to be tired or you want to go to sleep, you need to go to bed tired. So I wake up super early because I have to be at work super early. But the reality of it is I do that anyway. I would wake up early, irregardless of whether or not I had to work. Because when I do go to bed, I am exhausted. And I go to bed, and within 5 to 10 minutes, or seconds, according to my witness here, seconds of hitting the pillow, I am sound asleep. Snoring. Yes, snoring. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and I usually, most of the time, sleep through the whole night. Very rarely do I wake up. And that was another problem I would have when I would just sleep in until 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, is that I would wake up 2 or 3 times a night because I couldn't get to that solid sleep.
Yeah.
So, so that's the long explanation of why I do that.
Yeah. Do you ever find, though, and I can attest to all of what you just said because I've literally seen that whole transformation because
we've been married for
20. How many years?
Shoot. 21?
We've been married for 20. This year will be 21.
Okay.
You got it.
I'll be in trouble later.
No, you're good. Yeah, we've been married a long time. We've been together since I think I was like 17 or 18.
Yeah.
We got married when I was 19.
Yeah.
So I literally have seen all of what you said, like about the struggle to sleep and to stay asleep, and that now you don't really have that problem anymore, which is really
very
awesome.
Rarely. I still
but
have it.
Do you ever find that you're grumpy halfway through the day because you woke up?
Do you find that I'm grumpy halfway through the day?
I was more referring to myself because I tried to do what you're doing. And I found that it was not like a good thing for me because I would be so grumpy and like short-tempered by the end of the day. I'm just like, because I'd be so tired, I'd just be like over it. There
are times that I do get grumpy, but that's just my nature, I think, is grumpy, irregardless. I kind of have a sour disposition on things, but no, not usually. Actually, I find that my mood is much better.
Wow, that's interesting.
Because I'm walking around, like I go into a store and I'm just like bebopping along, happy to be there, you know? Yeah. And I look at all of these other people that are like dying, you know? They're just like, oh, I'm so tired. I'm so miserable. And I look at them, I'm like, well, what did you do last night? Well, I stayed up till, whatever, watching movies or drinking or doing all this other stupid stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I slept like a baby.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm better than you kind of thing. It's just like, I've been there. No. It's just like, I know what that's like.
Yeah.
And not that I'm like, haha, better than you. It's like, I've been there. I've done that. And I'm so glad I don't.
You don't miss that.
I don't miss that.
That's interesting.
I don't miss not being able to sleep. And it's done a lot for me as far as overall making myself happier because I get up and I'm not in this rush. Like I have time. I do my thing in the morning and I can, if I want to, I could sit down and read or play on my phone or exercise or I have more time. It's like trying to maximize the amount of time I have where I'm functioning and awake and doing things. So like instead of having a 8-hour day, I've got a 12-hour day.
So more time to do the things you want to do.
Absolutely. More time.
That's good.
And it's even more so now because like I work long hours sometimes. I don't feel like I've wasted the whole day. Not wasted, but like I've been at work all day. Well, yeah, I've been at work all day, but I already had an hour before I started work.
Yeah.
And then I have whatever time after. And usually I do come home and take a power nap. Sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes it's longer than power nap, but sometimes. It just depends on what I'd done the day before.
Has that affected your being able to go to sleep at night? The power naps?
Only if I sleep too long. So I try to keep it no longer than like a half hour. If I work all day and go right from work to teaching, then I'll come home and take like an hour nap or whatever because I'm just flat out exhausted the next day.
Right, that makes sense.
Because those days I usually don't get to bed till like 10 or 10:30.
Yeah, it's very late.
So that day, the following day, I'll come home and I'll be like, I've got to take a nap.
Yeah, usually that day when you come home, the day after teaching, you're like, hi, I'm going to sleep.
yeah. But no, I think though it is overall like improved my life drastically.
I agree.
I would say that other than getting married to this really pretty girl that I know, that has been the single thing that I have done to benefit my life.
Nice.
Like other than getting married to you and like straight, like growing up, that has been the single biggest thing in my life that has improved my life.
That's really good. Yeah. And I could definitely see that in you and since you've been doing that, like what a difference it's made.
It's been like 3 or 4 years.
It's been a long time now that you've been doing that. Yeah. And you don't wake me up as much as you used to, wiggling around and not being able to sleep or whatever. And it's almost like your body is like ready to wake up because like this morning
I beat the alarm up.
You beat the alarm and I was like, it's Saturday and it's like 3:45, go back to sleep. And you were like, not having it. Like you could go back to sleep.
I had things to do. I was lots of stuff to think about.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's enough of my sleep habits.
Yeah.
I'm boring everybody.
Everyone's like, great.
Yeah. Those of you that are still here, thank you very much. I appreciate you. Thanks for sticking around for 75 episodes. If you're new here, please check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all of those. You can find us at the Formless Pod. We have an email address that you can email us, formlesspod@gmail.com. And then we also have a website called The Formless Pod. That's where you'll find all of our merchandise, shirts, hats, stickers, pillows, coffee mugs, all that stuff. Also, our contest rules and regulations are on there. Yeah. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a wonderful evening and catch you on the next time. Unless you had something else to say.
Oh,
okay.